Hi everyone, this is Rehan Saeed. I was playing at YCS Providence, playing the White Forest deck. You saw me on stream twice. My friend Steven Santoli wanted to invite me to the channel to go over my deck. Although we weren't able to make top cut, we were extremely close. We lost round 11, and but if we won round 11, I was a very high x2, so 100% would have gotten in as into top cut. And even though this deck didn't receive top cut status, I think the strategy itself is very interesting, and there's a lot of good thought and theory that went into the deck. So it's still something that perhaps should be considered for the Alliance Insight format. And so we wanted to make this video and deck profile just to go over some of the thought and insight of the White Forest strategy.
So in terms of starters for the deck, there's played triple LZ Azamina, LZ of the White Forest, triple Sylvie, and then to increase the consistency of the deck, since people are not playing that many fair hand traps in this metagame, I also added 2 sellers to make it so that combined with 3 of the field spell, you had 11 true White Forest starters in a 45 card deck, making the consistency of opening a true White Forest starter around 80%. And I ran 1 Azamina as a combo piece, Diabell Star, Vengeance, and Diabell the White Witch. This allows you to play really well into Fuolos, since you get a lot of pressure and combo pieces or endboard pieces out of the main deck rather than the extra deck. And these two combine really well to make a nice sub engine that allows you to apply pressure and board presence. While if your rest of your engine gets cut off, or if you only open like Foolish Bill of Goods or something. So very good additions to the deck. Going into spells, Triple Wanted, Deception, Sinful Spells of the White Forest. I play this over Woes because Woes makes you tunnel in on the Book of Eclipse, whereas this gives you flexibility in terms of what you want to do, whether you want to go for Guardian Chimera, an Azamina play, or make the Snake Eyes Doom Dragon instead, which I do play in the extra deck. So I thought this was a lot more promising. And Woes was also hard checked by Lingaribo very often in testing, so I thought that wasn't good. And then the Sinful Spoils and the White Forest name means that this card is very accessible through various parts of your engine, rather than just the White Forest engine. And so I thought that part was also very promising to have the accessibility of it. Then I played Tales of the White Forest, which is just your Rhoda for the White Forest names. And I played the Witch of the White Forest in terms of being a true starter, and it's a new addition to the deck, which helps consistency. Also new additions are Curse of Diabell and Philia Diabell, which allow you to access your level 8 Diabells in the extra deck. I'm flying through this because I do have some thoughts to share afterwards. I don't want this deck profile to be half an hour. Hallowed Azamina, and then Sinful Spoils of Morrigan, because it's a very efficient card to have, because it can send, and then it can reset as well. For the Alliance Insight metagame, this deck cannot play 18 or 20 hand traps, so the hand trap count isn't that high, but you do have other non-engine that can facilitate your ability to go second, while also potentially serving as, going second cards or engine cards as well. So I played 1 Effect Filler because it's searchable and it helps diversify your board's interactions. Played 3 Ash Blossom because this is a more charmy metagame format. Drone Lockbird because I thought that Mitsurugi Raizo would have really high popularity, and I was right because I played 6 Mitsurugi Raizo, and overall top 20 tables at the end of day 1, I believe was just dominated by Raizo relative to Maliss. And I thought that there'll be other decks in the format as well, like Fiendsmith decks that can also just get hit by Drone Lockbird. So I opted for this in the main, and not just trying to uber respect Maliss. And obviously playing 3 Molcharmi Fools as well to help us going second. The Molcharmi cards in this deck are very promising because your engine is very strong, so it kind of forces your opponent to have a half board, which can get pushed over by the fact that you are playing a very strong engine deck, and you do have cards that can facilitate as board breakers. Played 1 Crossout for Drone Lockbird, sometimes crossed out Molcharmi Fools as well, depending on the hand, and Ash Blossom. But I decided this card out going first, game 3 or game 2, if I was playing against a deck that Drone Lockbird was not good in. Because it's at 1 now, it feels weird to side keep in 1 Molcharmi, 1 Droll into matchups where the Droll was not good, and obviously the Molcharmi is dead going first. So I actually did side this card out going first sometimes, which kind of felt weird. Call by the Grave for Drone Lockbird. I also played 3 triple tactics thrusts and obviously the 1 talents, which kind of fits into these cards. But this card can also get you a lot of good engine pieces as well. Like if we were to look at, we can grab Tails. We can grab, let's see here. We can grab Philia if we have a Tropic Grave. We can grab Cursed if we have something to send it with. We also can grab Hollowed Azamina as well. So there's a lot of good cards for us to get when it comes to engine pushes as well with Thrust, which I thought made Thrust really valuable in my eyes. It really came up in various scenarios during the tournament as well. And then the other pseudo board breaker that can also function as engine is Foolish Brittle Goods for Blackout Labs. This is probably what made me really successful in my tournament run, because setting Foolish Brittle Goods for Blackout Labs, calling Detonator, game was over. It doesn't matter what else they have. The Murakumo is very easy to deal with. Cross is somewhat easy to deal with. And obviously, if they don't, they probably won't have Droll into that matchup because it turns off their Mitsurugi recovery as well. And if they do Droll you, then that means they don't have Mitsurugi recovery. So this was by far a standout piece, because not only does it allow you to get into your level 8 Diabell engine, but also lets you get into Blackout Labs, also lets you go, push into boards really well. And overall, it's a very good card in general. So I thought that was a very, very good addition to the deck. In terms of extra deck, played these archetypal synchros. Not much explaining to do here. Popular the White Force is very good in this deck because I actually do also play Doom Dragon. So when it scales 2 of your White Force monsters, you can actually contact freeze into Doom Dragon by Seven to the Grave, which actually did come up a few times. So very happy by playing those. Played Chaos Angel. Light Dark Chaos Angel is very hard for Mitsurugi to out, so very good addition to the deck. And I played Jieshin. This is a new card from Alliance Insight. A card I made using Sylvie and Diabell if I got drolled, because it allows you to have a Rigeki on the field instead of like an SP. It also is not dark attribute, so meaning it's very easy to access under the field spell restriction. And sometimes, if I was playing against Raizo, I actually wouldn't go for the Snake Eyes Vengeance Dragon because it was only dealing with 1 body. I would go for the Poplar Synchro with the level 7 Diabell into this, because this would deal with 2 bodies. So it makes it really difficult for Raizo to stick 2 level 4 bodies on the field to go into any rank 4 Xyz play. Play Doom Dragon, very cool card, style points for playing this. But also I think this was my 15th card. I played it over SP because SP is a bit counterproductive in this deck. This deck doesn't have the most, fantastic grind game. So SP preventing you from going for lethal is a bit of a concern. Along with the fact that since it is dark, the Fuse Ball can lock you out of it. So it's a non-destruction removal that would have been inaccessible if I played SP. But since this is a fire and accessible through your engine, I thought it was a very good addition. And it did come up a few times. Also, you can also actually fuse into this with the quick play, since you do have a Snake Eyes monsters with Snake Eyes Vengeance and an Illusion. So you can actually make this on your opponent's turn to get another, Flamberge Spell and Trap card placement. I played a rather big Azamina package. So all five came up, one or another. Round 5 feature match, I was told that I was wrong in terms of this dealing double damage. I was actually told by the judges of the event that was how the Sylvia and Azamina interaction worked. So that's why I did it, and that's why the feature match judges had no issues with it, is because that's how the judges were ruling it. However, I did check with the head judge after the after my feature match, just to make sure that I wasn't, doing anything illegal, and I was correct in how I thought that the interaction worked. And the head judge did clarify that if I attack with, say, Azamina, since that's not battle damage that's being inflicted by Saint Azamina, Ilya Sylvia's effective double would not come up. So just a minor miscommunication there. Did not intend to do anything illegal. This is a combo piece that's very fragile, but it's good to have an extra deck in case it comes up. Allows your Wanted or Diabell Star to be 1 card combo, and then Guardian Chimera for the fusion plays. Then side deck. Obviously the main deck is not built for Malice. Malice is a very volatile matchup because if you win the coin flip and you get to combo, you obviously win game 1 because Malice can never crack your board or your half board, let alone. But if you lose a die roll and you go in second in Malice, it doesn't matter how many hand traps you have, because as long as they're not combinations of like 3 or 4 hand traps, Malice is playing through it. So I decided to not respect Malice as much in the main deck. And, you know, since we do play 2 out of 3 games from the side deck, I thought it perfectly fine to respect Malice in the side deck. So I played these 12 going second into Malice. And yeah, it worked out fine. I only played 1 Malice, so it's hard to reflect. Play this for Detonator and Wave King High Caesar. Thrust target for Malice, you send Dia Bellstar, and you look at the hand, rip all of their Malice names and draw phase. And you get to see, you know, what you need to stop if they have any extenders like Gold Star, Terraforming, or Field Spell. And because you do sack a Dia Bellstar with this, if you did play the Dia Bellstar and didn't get impermed, then you have like a Morrigan to stop their extension. So if they do have a Gold Sark or Field Spell, then it's completely fine because you do have the Morrigan to flip whatever impactful Malice card they special summon onto the field. And I have D-Barrier, Calling Ritual for Mitsurugi Raizo. The Raizo engine is very easy to deal with. I always take the Chummy Challenge against Raizo because Raizo only has 3 pushes. They have Ice, they have Extant Sword, and then they have Node. So your deck has 4 quote-unquote board wipes, which is the Silvera Book of Eclipse, the Guardian Chimera Pop 2, the Jiraishin Rigeki, and then your Book of Moon if needed. So it's very difficult for Raizo to ever stick 2 level 4 bodies on the field. So I always full combo, and since the white Dia Bellstar, the new inclusion, I'll just quickly show it. If that's on the field with any other Dia Bell, all your monsters are protected from card destruction. So this. If it's on the field with either this, or the Synchro Dia Bell, then all your monsters are protected by card destruction. So if they lead with Murakumo or like Mitsurugi Ritual, it's completely fine because that's not actually applying pressure into your deck, unlike other decks. So if you do have like this setup, it's very difficult for Mitsurugi Raizo to deal with your board unless they go for like an imperm on this or something like that. So that's why the Mitsurugi Raizo matchup is actually pretty good for this deck. My overall thoughts on this deck is that this deck is actually quite solid. I played this deck for fun going into this event because I actually didn't have much time to hard playtest Mitsurugi Raizo or Malice. I was more interested in Mitsurugi Raizo, but the sequencing of that deck, it requires a lot of practice and a lot of game time. And frankly, I didn't have that going into this event. So I played this because I did play White Force a lot in Master Duel. This was my first time with this deck IRL. So there were a few things I forgot that came up and cost me my top cut spot. Cost me the Deception resetting in end phase, cost me round 7, round 11. Not being as familiar with some of the ongoing effects like the Dia Bell's White Witch protection effect. That also came up round 11 where I could have won that game too if I remembered that was a thing. So these are just things that are like muscle memory rather than things I just didn't know about the deck. And these are just things that, you know, you improve over time by playing the deck for more and more reps. In terms of its positioning in the metagame, I think it's completely fine. The draw and lock issue is there, but it's also something that, you know, you can be cognizant of when sequencing your plays, because there are many instances where you can respect draw and lock bird by being, you know, meaningful with your first ad. So for example, sometimes depending on the strength of my hand, I'm like, if I get crippled by draw and lock bird, go Field Spell, add White Witch first. If I can get like the trap in rotation, because that means that at least I get my double Dia Bell play set up, and I do have meaningful interruptions in case my opponent goes draw and lock bird. Because it's important to recognize that if your opponent does go draw, they do lose a card out of their hand, and depending on the matchup, your half boards can be fine. Like if you're playing against Malice, your half boards can be completely fine. Mitsurugi Raizo, your half boards won't suffice, unfortunately. So that's why it's really important that, you know, if you do get Mulcharmy, full send it. You know, the only card that you actually really lose to would be Nibiru, but you don't really lose to like the actual other hand traps in general. And if they draw hand traps, they draw hand traps. But it's really, you know, it's more like a Schrodinger's cat situation where the cards that they draw could be engine, where that's counterproductive for them and helpful for you. But they could also just be drawing like redundancy of hand traps and just never draw into engine. So it's really difficult to say. But in my opinion, the safe bet is just full send it, go into your hand traps, because once your board is set up, if they don't have Nibiru, you're winning that matchup. In terms of shoutouts to the Council of Robina, shoutouts to Steven Santoli for hosting me on the channel and for allowing me to explain my deck and for encouraging me to play it. He played Horus Crystron, encouraged me to play something that I'm comfortable with because this event we knew was going to be very variance heavy. So it was good to go into this playing something that we're comfortable with and something that, we won't regret playing. Also, shout outs to Brim Yugioh for their videos. I definitely took a look at your channel in preparation of this deck and building this deck. Shire Yugioh for your 1 hour White Forest Masterclass. Definitely looked at that. Took the deck devastation variant inspiration from that. So really, really good content creators out there for the White Forest strategy. Encourage you to check them out. Also, huge shout out to my testing partners for this deck, Robert Klodowski, Daniel Koto. Huge shout out to them. Definitely could not have made this deck without them. They were really instrumental in terms of I would come up with certain cards to test and they would test them, give me back feedback, or just help me, in terms of the development of the deck, things to look out for. So definitely could not have made this deck without them. And then last, a huge shout outs to the OCG, and specifically Tasku and his teammates. They had success with this deck in the OCG, and I took inspiration from them in terms of seeing why this deck was being, popularized by them, why this deck saw success in the OCG, and where it could fit into our metagame in the TCG. So huge shout outs to them, and I really appreciate them sharing their insights and their information from the OCG with us, because a lot of the composition of this deck and so the theory of this deck would not have been possible without their insights. So yeah, the Alliance Insight format, this deck is fine. It's not anything above tier 2, but really fun to play, really rewarding to play, also difficult to play. But I would encourage you to check this deck out if you're interested. And yeah, I hope if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And either Steven or I can just check in periodically and answer questions as they come up. All right, thank you.